Working in a technology space, you would imagine that this would be the place where most people are afraid of AI taking over their jobs. That's not been the case. That's not what I'm seeing. What we're seeing is AI enabling and accelerating developers. A report that Anthropic put out this year showing that 27% of AI-assisted work is work that wouldn't have been attempted without AI. That's not acceleration, that's new capacity. And agents are reducing that toil so that engineers can focus on things like architecture, design, and strategic, what should we be building kind of questions. So I don't want fewer engineers. I want engineers who can do things that used to be impossible.
It is Kubex Talks. Thank you so much for joining us here at the podcast. Glad you're here. My name is Brian. I'm the producer of the show. Well, today we've got a great discussion. It's very relevant. Manny Patel joins Andrew Hillier, and they're going to be spending quite a bit of today's episode on AI. A few highlights to expect: optimizing cloud and Kubernetes and how AI is affecting that, MCP, agentic AI, are agents taking over jobs or helping achieve tasks that were once impossible? What's the impact on the workforce and roles? Is there skill erosion? They'll talk about AI native and the future of AI, where they think it's going and what their predictions are for AI. It's going to be a great discussion. I hope you enjoy this one. It's very relevant today. So let's get started. Here is your host, CTO and co-founder of Kubex, Andrew Hillier.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Andrew Hillier, and I'm joined today by Manny. Manny, why don't you take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, Manny Patel. I'm an infrastructure platform engineering leader focused on building infrastructure that large-scale enterprises can run reliably in the cloud. My background, I've spent decades in the infrastructure space, starting off back in the mainframe days, moving over to VMs, to cloud, to containers, Kubernetes, and now AI operations. The thing about building the multi-cloud platforms now, providing the parity of service across clouds, with AI where it's at, it's going to give us the opportunity to really leverage that, and it's not just a pie in the sky, hope and dream anymore.
It's real, and we've worked together for a long time and seen these transitions, in the VMware days and the cloud, and then containers. And of course, we're still focused on containers, but AI is just it's a huge disruption in many, many ways. And that's what we wanted to focus on today. Before we talk about the abstract of AI, let's talk specifically. So we work together optimizing cloud and Kubernetes environments, which is, of course, the big area right now. How is AI factoring into that right now for you?
AI is a cognitive shift, right? Going from VMs to cloud and then cloud to containers, those were location shifts. Those were abstracting infra from one thing to another. With AI, it's changing the decision loop itself, right? This is not a traditional organic leap as the other ones were. And the pace at which is evolving is just accelerating. It's madness. Things that were not possible or improbable 6 months ago are inevitable now, right?
It's incredible what's happening. And it's interesting for us because it factors in so many ways, because we see AI as workloads that we can optimize. Because if you're running them yourself, the token costs, you can optimize that. But then using AI to optimize them, AI or Kubernetes, of course, is the big focus. And one of the biggest things, let's start with one of the biggest and probably most useful things or practical things is MCP. So we're seeing adoption of MCP, new architectures for agentic frameworks. What are you seeing in that area?
The way I see MCP is like the USB-C of AI integration, right? It's standardizing the way we interface with it, gives agents a way to reach into enterprise systems, right? Whether it be ServiceNow or SaaS providers, it's giving us a standardized interface. This is the real-time glue that is unlocking the agent's capability. I would go as far as to say that MCPs are probably the reason why AI will be able to do a lot of the things that it is going to be able to do easily and within reason. One of the VPs at my company has an analogy he likes to use is toilet. Everybody's house has a toilet. The toilet has two holes, one with the water coming in, one with everything else going out. Those are standard. With that standard, everything in between can be unique, can be creative, can be very much every house you get will have the same interface. So now AI can plug into those interfaces everywhere and do what it needs to do.
So Mythos is one of those fancy Japanese toilets that has a lot of features.
And it's plugging into every hole that's out there in every house.
Security hole for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're big fans of MCP because it, as you pointed out, it standardizes the interface and it's self-describing. So it lets you start having these things talk to each other very quickly, and they understand the context of what tools are available in the MCP. So it's like a really well self-describing REST API. And so, we see lots of cases for that. You tied it in together, like you did a multi-MCP integration yourself, right? Just when you were with the Kubex product. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah. We realized that using the Kubex MCP server, we were able to get the recommendations out in front of our customers, right? Instead of having somebody from a FinOps team have to run reports and send them out, or somebody has to parse through large reports. You could just go into a Teams chatbot and ask, what business applications have the highest cost avoidance, and what are my applications, and that sort of thing. What MCP servers have allowed us to do, that is the Kubex MCP server and ServiceNow, is to integrate all those together to be able to say that, right? To say, tell me the top 10, best cost optimization recommendations you have. And for the top one, show me all of their applications owned by the same executive owner. Putting this information together for a human could take hours or days if they got to pull reports from various systems of record and cross-reference it and do VLOOKUPs, got big spreadsheets. Now I'm just chatting with a Teams chatbot. Mm-hmm. The amount of rich data that I'm able to collect and trust and make it actionable is huge.
Mm-hmm. And a prompt you can do, to your point, what would have taken many, many queries and integrations and BI approaches and things like that. And, we see people hitting us and then hitting Dynatrace and like for root cause analysis, or FinOps use cases where I'm going to hit pricing APIs, I'm going to hit that, I'm going to hit that. I'm synthesizing things, contextualizing. It's really wonderful. And it starts to become, almost like if we, get into the agentic side of it and agents, almost like a part of your team. So let's talk about agents for a second. So you had mentioned, this Teams bot that is almost like a team member in your environment, but it's actually AI. And we're really doubling down on agents for narrow tasks and to do certain things. And what are your thoughts on that as far as the bot becoming part of the team, maybe other agents out there doing different tasks? Do you see that expanding in your company?
Oh, for sure. As far as the work the teams are doing, working in a technology space, you would imagine that this would be the place where most people are afraid of AI taking over their jobs. That's not been the case. That's not what I'm seeing. What we're seeing is AI enabling and accelerating developers. There was a report that Anthropic put out this year showing that 27% of AI-assisted work is work that wouldn't have been attempted without AI. That's not acceleration. That's new capacity. Mm-hmm. And agents are reducing that toil so that engineers can focus on things like architecture, design, and strategic, what should we be building kind of questions. Mm-hmm. So I don't want fewer engineers. I want engineers who can do things that used to be impossible.
Right. They can do the things they do faster, or do things, like you said, they couldn't possibly consider. When everybody becomes a bit of a team lead, I know when I have Cloud Cowork here, multiple things going on at once, and it taps me on the shoulder when it needs something from me, but it's doing the work at its speed, and it's just consulting the human. So, there's a case where our whole role changes. We were chatting last week about all of this, and you had forwarded a paper with the survey results from, I think it's from your university, on all these things. And it had some really interesting findings in different areas. So maybe we can talk about that for a second, because one of them was the effect on the workforce and on roles. There was some interesting research in there about which, and I found it funny because there's a rise in the role of the chief AI officer. Well, yeah, of course, AI is going to cause a a rise in that role. But it had some other findings about which other roles would be changed and which ones would kind of come to the forefront. And that's kind of what you're getting at is how people's roles change and which ones kind of emerge. They might be entirely new.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty here, right? And in the past, when we're talking about a new tool, the Loom, automation, building cars, any number of things where people were upset about, jobs being lost, the jobs just shifted. This is the first time we've seen a disruption that is impacting many, or if not all, roles across the board. But there's still going to be the same shift. The roles on the rise. There's AI ethicists. Who knew that was going to be a thing just a couple of years ago? Things like solution architects, prompt engineers, ML engineering, these are all roles that either didn't exist or didn't have as much of a demand until now. We're going to need it even more. Roles being disrupted. These are going to be some of the junior roles, the level 1 customer service reps, entry-level web developers, and so forth. Loan processors, bookkeepers, folks that do a lot of repetitive tasks that have very strongly documented rules and guardrails would be easy for an AI to follow. Of course, there is that prompt engineer shift, right? There's a real shift from traditional development into prompt engineering, but it's more nuanced than just learning to prompt. We're talking about an SME with AI skills, right? So it's a big shift in a lot of different places. I'm hopeful that we'll land in a place where we still have a strong workforce and not a whole bunch of people out of work and not without the skills to do it, but might be a little bit of pain along the way, and I certainly hope that doesn't impact too many people.
Maybe we'll all be sitting on a beach, who knows, but it is a big unknown right now. And it's interesting, the prompt engineering. I spend a ton of time doing prompt engineering myself in various areas in our product and just in general, and I find it's fascinating how it's almost like there's a new form of source code emerging. Like almost everybody can define logic, not in a specific rigid language, just using words to achieve something. And so the problem domain subject matter experts start to be able to express that, not constrained by how you need to express it. And, we have a lot of discussions about what becomes the source code at that point. And what is, is there a master markdown that is the source code, for a whole company, for example, of everything that trickles down on that. It is so powerful and so fast. I was, working on something for a diagnostic to make sure that data is flowing properly for an analysis. You developed a complete diagnostic framework and a UI in 2 hours within our agent to do that. It's remarkable how fast it is. So then all the people that might have taken months to do that are doing hopefully something else. The change in the roles is happening in real time, and we probably don't know where it's going to go as these models get more and more advanced. The other thing that was kind of highly related was the concept of skill erosion. I think that was mentioned. It was talked about in there. There was this great quote. I have it down here. It says, "AI itself will not replace you. Rather, people who know how to use AI in your domain will replace you." I think somebody maybe on your team or somebody said that in your org. I thought that was a great quote, which is very highly relevant to this. And that's kind of consistent with what you're saying.
Yeah, I did end up looking that up. It was originally from Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA. Okay. Paraphrased a little bit, but yeah, that's effectively what he said. His quote was actually, your job isn't going to be replaced by AI. Your job will be replaced by someone that uses AI. Right. I don't think that's accurate anymore because most everybody uses AI in some way, shape, or form, whether they know it or not at this point.
Sometimes people who know the least about a problem domain or about, for example, coding are the first to use it to solve a problem because they know what they want to do, but they don't know how to do it. And you don't have to know how to do it anymore. You can just get it done. One other thing that comes to mind is, how do you trust what it did? We spend a lot of time working on trust and making sure that the balance between what's agentic and what's deterministic is known, and so you can trust the answers coming out of it. How do you feel, like, what are your thoughts on trusting what it's saying?
This kind of lends itself into the keeping human in the loop. Humans, we need to connect the deep dive on the process, right? Specify the why and the what. If our requirements are well stated, then the AI will do what we tell it to do. If we don't know what the AI is doing, then we're not using AI as a tool, it's using us. This is really going to be, and this is probably one of the biggest reasons why I think we're going to have a lot of AI slop in the short term until we get better at it. With code, with source code, could be a prompt, a TRD, a technical requirements document that has a bunch of requirements. You can give it to 10 different people, 10 different AIs, or even the same AI and get different results as long as they meet those requirements. So that means that those requirements have to be super tight. They have to be exactly what we need without any vague hand wavy verbiage. We can only trust it as much as we trust our prompt. And realistically, that means that our prompts need to be vetted and validated by multiple people. I'm human. We're all human. I think, maybe. When I'm writing a prompt, I think it's fully complete. there's going to be gaps, and we need other people to chime in. And that's why humans can't just leave everything up to AI, right? AI is not going to have that creative direction that sometimes isn't obvious. Nobody needed an iPad until it came out, and all of a sudden everybody did. AI would not have come up with that.
Judgment is something that humans bring to the table. I think that survey talked about accountability, critical thinking, things like that, where that's got to be brought to the table to make sure it does what it needs to do. But it's interesting because even if you give a task to humans, there's many ways to get a task done and many acceptable ways to get a task done. So in that sense, the way we view it in the product is that it's something you're automating. It's got to be deterministic. It's got to be like if you're setting a request and a limit on a container, we use math and policies for that. It's known what it's going to do. If you're asking a higher level question to reason, like saying like our new bin packer agent, tell me how I can, optimize these node groups using different bin packing strategies. And it can understand, okay, you're running, Anthos on EKS or whatever that is. Here's your top strategies. There might be different strategies you could do in a different order, and it's all valid. So that's kind of an case. Now, when I do a strategy, how I do it has to be right and deterministic. You see what I'm saying? So there's this kind of line between probabilistic and deterministic, and you got to draw that line everywhere. Give it free rein to think like a coding agent, go be creative, but then when it gets down to it, be correct. And it's kind of, to your point, evaluating how humans would do it too, and how you would let them solve that problem. Because it's, maybe there are multiple ways to solve it, but getting to the actionable result is really important. Now that's a good segue to AI native. If you're using AI to take meeting notes, you're not really using AI to its full potential. At the other end of the spectrum, harnesses and agents that go and solve a problem within the confines you gave it. How do you view the progression from simple use cases to more advanced cases like you described with humans in the loop in the right way?
What you're describing, and by the way, when you're talking about a single agent system hallucinating with conviction, right? They're absolutely certain about what they're doing, and it's horribly wrong. Multi-role agents, what I've seen is that they hesitate productively, right? That hesitation is where that safety is. AI native, what we're talking about is not only saying we're doing something with AI, but you could be building, static code with AI, the source code being the prompt or a harness or the guardrails that you mentioned. This is going to fracture what we think about in terms of what a standard is, what is supportable, what is not. Historically, we might have a couple types of languages that we want to support, right? Just by nature of wanting to keep our skill set high in certain things and not have a whole bunch of different languages that we have to understand. So we could say Node and Angular are things that our standards are. Well, what if React is more efficient for the UI that you're trying to build? If AI is going to manage it and support it, or more realistically, if our teams are going to use AI to manage and support it, does it really matter? Maybe. I think that's an open question. I think that's where AI native is going, is if we say, go use AI to do the cool things, you can have a skill tied to your Cloud Code or your cowork or whatnot, and say, I want to make sure that we stay within the boundaries of our reference architecture standards. But again, you're fracturing, right? If three teams are doing the same kind of unit tests and they give that same prompt, you're going to get three different answers. Does it make sense to maintain three different source codes, or should we just have the one that a human would have made in that time? It's going to be a long road to get to the point where we've established that AI native is maybe more complex, but maybe we don't care. To get there, it's going to be a bumpy.
And as long as you don't mind burning a lot of tokens in the process, it is like, again, do I, like we have this discussion as well. Like if I know all the inputs and I know all the outputs that are correct, and I have 100,000 examples of correct outputs, so I can know if it's working right. Do I care what the code looks like that did that? Or is that enough? And then is the source code actually just the prompt? And if I run it again, I get different source code, but it still works because the criteria is it be correct. You know what I mean? So it brings up a philosophical change. Do you really care what's inside that? You need a human to review every line of code, or is the fact that you can verify it, that it operates properly enough? The human defines the verification. The human doesn't review all the code. So it's interesting to see where it'll all go. Yep. Even without getting to that level, the efficiency gains we see, like back to these multi-MCP architectures, the speed you can do things at is just unreal. It's just unheard of to be able to tie things together and get these answers. So it's a fun time to be alive when these technologies are coming through. Where do you see this going? So we're kind of talking about where it is and where it's going a bit with agentic. Where do you see this all landing?
If I had to look at my crystal ball, if you asked me 6 months ago, I would have thought right now is 2 years ahead, right? So with this acceleration, who knows? But in 2 years, I would expect AI doing a lot of the log correlation, the root cause suggestions, runbook generation, the things that maybe humans don't like to do, but are very easily identified and driven by observing humans. Humans would still be in there, decision making, exception handling, system design, pull it all together in one place. I'm not terrified of AI. I'm terrified of standing still while everybody else figures it out.
And that's a very important point. The speed is incredible, and it just makes everything go faster. And you got to go faster too, because everybody else is going to be going faster. And people are doing 996 and working, with the force multiplier to just do impressive things. So you're either going to be riding that wave or you're going to be not in this world. So interesting times. And you're right, like 2 years ahead, it's almost impossible to look that far ahead. 6 months ahead is difficult to see right now with the rate of change. It should be fun to see it unfold. Thanks, Manny. It was a great conversation as always. I'm gonna borrow a local phrase from where I'm sitting right now and say, I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks, Manny.
Andrew Hillier and Manny Patel. Gentlemen, thank you very much for this great discussion. Really appreciate it. It was a really good one. I hope you enjoyed it too. My name is Brian, producer of CubeX Talks. Thank you so much for listening and joining us. We really appreciate you being here. We hope you like the show. And we'd love to hear from you. What do you think of the show? What are your thoughts? Cubex.ai, by the way, is the website. If you've got any questions for us, comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, email us over at marketing@cubex.ai. And make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes, of course. Hope you join us for the next episode of CubeX Talks. We will talk to you then, and hope you also have a glorious day. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you.